Hey everybody, welcome to our live broadcast. I am here with Irfan Raza. He is a real estate investor here in Philadelphia. He used to be a CPA, and he's been able to use his knowledge of the tax world as well as what he's learned in the real estate investing world to put the two together to become a very successful real estate investor. So you definitely want to stay tuned to hear about what he's doing in the business. So what's up, Irfan? Welcome to the show.
How you doing, HOAN? How's everything going?
Well, everything is shut down. Everything is shut down. The only entertainment that we have now are Facebook Lives. So that is what we're doing here.
What about Tiger King? You haven't been on Tiger King?
Tiger King is phenomenal. No, I'm kidding. I watched a couple episodes. I'll be honest, because you have to stay relevant, you know?
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
So Tiger King has been the butt of many jokes, but it's been good because it's allowed people to just forget about what ails them. The things that are just bothering them right now, Tiger King is what they needed.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I think some people take the approach of trying to get away from things, right? And other people attack. And honestly, I think right now is the time to attack rather than hide and watch a Tiger King.
Escapism versus, I don't know, like you were saying, attacking. So let's talk about that real quick. So in terms of escapism, what have you seen? And then in terms of attacking, what would you do?
Yeah, maybe attacking is the wrong word, but escaping is not something that you want to do unless you want to escape your 9 to 5, right?
Yeah, there it is. Everybody has your 9 to 5.
So right now, a lot of people are escaping their 9 to 5, and a lot of investors are also going a little bit slower than normal. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes.
It's a wrong word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. That was Facebook acting up. But go ahead.
Yeah, so I think investors are going to see a lot of changes right now, and there's a lot of predictions of what's going to happen. And I think the only thing to really listen to is you're going to see changes, and they're probably not going to be for the best, right? You're going to probably see a little bit less rent collections. You're going to see a little bit more struggle to your overall business. And I think a lot of the weaknesses that you have in your business are going to be shown, and they're going to be evident. So right now is the time to attack those weaknesses and find what those weaknesses are and alleviate them towards what would be a rough patch.
What's a weakness? Give me an example. Like, let's go into details. I think people need details in these uncertain times, because right now they hear a lot of the same message about like what to do, but we got to get into the weeds. That's my favorite part, getting into the weeds of everything.
Yeah. So that's a good question, right? So what we found in our business was we were wasting a lot of time physically going places and showing properties. Okay. So we wanted to eliminate that right away. We found that as a weakness, and we went into a more streamlined approach through electronic lockboxes and using systems and programs specifically for showings that we could pretty much buy off the shelf. So we identified that as our weakness before this COVID mess happened, and we now identify that as one of our strengths going into this mess. So what we found is that leasing is a lot easier for us than the typical investor that's manually showing properties, because we are using these this off-the-shelf platform as well as electronic lockboxes.
Tell me more about that. Tell me more about like how it works. So you have this electronic lockbox, and then you have these showings where are people walking through by themselves and they're calling you when they're there, or like how's that working?
Yeah. So one thing you got to remember is that I am also a landlord and not only a real estate agent. So we're actually utilizing this program to help with the communication back and forth with potential applicants. And there's a lot of automated responses that happen through this program. And then when the applicant is truly interested in leasing the property, they will provide their information, and they will get a lockbox code to self-show. So they're going to let themselves into the property. We have all their information. So there's and we also have insurance. So there's less risk for criminal behavior and criminal activity. So we found that to be pretty successful in the last few months, and we've been utilizing it since, especially in this time where we're trying to limit interaction.
So walk me through it real quick. So I'm an interested tenant. I want to see this place. What's my first step? So number one, how did I find your property? And then number two, who am I speaking to, and how am I speaking to that person?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it's kind of been that most people have been finding their properties online. So we're not really changing that. We're still posting to all the websites. We post to Zillow, Hotpads, Apartments.com, and our program allows to do that pretty streamlined. So we're also trying to eliminate or reduce is a better word, reduce phone calls through our program. So we're trying to automate emails and email responses, and we found that to be a more efficient way, and try to force that internet communication rather than.
So do you have this an automated response that requires a certain action, and then if they don't do the action, then you eliminate them altogether? Like you create a pretty steep funnel where people are falling out pretty easily?
Yeah. So the number one thing we do is we after interest, we show them our website, which communicates our tenant qualifications. So exactly like you said, it is a funnel. It's a large funnel at first. There's a lot of interest, but once we get past the website, it reduces in size, and then we let them know. We let them know how we can get into the property, and they need a self-show. If they come late, then they don't have access to the property. So that reduces the funnel even more at that time. And to be frank with you, we are looking for the cream of the crop tenants. So if they are coming late, we do remember that on their application, and we try to pick the best application.
Okay. Awesome. Have you been doing that now? Have you been doing showings and leasings this way?
Yes, we are continually doing showings right now. We, like every other investor out there, the times are a little bit softer. So say we would normally get a place leased out in 3 weeks. Now it's looking closer to 6, 7. It seems like it's hard to tell right now fully, but it is a little bit more delayed than we're used to. Gotcha.
All right. Well, hey, if you're still getting it leased up, that's great. 6 weeks. Yeah. Dude, I'll take 6 weeks. Yeah. You know?
It looks like double the time.
Yeah.
We've only been in this mess for 3 weeks, so it's hard to really tell.
Can you believe that we've only been in this mess for 3 weeks? It feels like we've been in the mess for like 6 years.
Yeah. It has.
People are stuck at home, and they're just going stir crazy because not a lot of people are doing much. Right. A lot of people are binge watching Tiger King, right? They know every episode inside and out.
But that's not a necessity, right? You can still go outside. You can still run. You can still work out. You can do yard work if you want to do yard work, go to a park. There's plenty of options.
They didn't do that stuff when they had the opportunity before. They're not doing it now either. They're just stuck at home watching TV.
I think if you put enough effort, you can make it happen, right? So
I mean, you can do anything. You know?
Absolutely.
People in general, when you put enough effort into anything, we can create amazing things. Like the fact that we're doing this is a product of human ingenuity.
Absolutely.
Right? So people can do anything. It's just, what are people to do? So let's talk about that. So I love the fact that you were able to streamline your business, make it all automated, make it virtual before this even happened, because that just increased your efficiency by so much, right? And you can do that while on an island. You can do showing while on an island, right? You can lease while on an island.
Well, that's funny you mentioned that, actually, because that's how I pushed for everything automated and everything online, everything on the computer, because my wife and I like to take a lot of vacations, and I found that being physically present in Philly, and that being a necessity was a problem. So while I was on vacation, I would figure out a way to make things easier, right? So it could be little things like filtering out your email, unsubscribing to nonsense emails that you get. And honestly, I've had to do that a lot. Like, how many emails, COVID emails, did you get in your inbox from like places like Applebee's lately?
Right. It's like, yeah, this is what we're doing during the COVID-19 thing, because I know you're a loyal subscriber to Applebee's.
Yeah. So I unsubscribed to all of those, right? That was like the first thing that I did. That I don't need this this information in my life, right? So and that came that this COVID mess actually cleaned up my inbox a little bit more. But prior to that, I would go on vacation and I would see that I have a lot of I like to call it noise, a lot of noise coming into my life, and I would try to clear out that noise and just try to focus on the things that were truly important. And I think this time period is a perfect situation to make that happen, right? Just focus on what's truly important.
Right. That's so part of also noise. Like, some people take it a little further than others. Well, who was it? Was it Mark Zuckerberg or somebody? He just wears the same T-shirts every single day.
Yeah, that's another interesting thing that you said that. So I've actually tried to practice some minimalism in my life, right? So I ordered 3 of the same shirts. Like every shirt that I'm ordering 3 of the same, and I'm trying to consistently wear the same clothing when I go out, but I haven't been out in a while. So,
right, you should get them branded, little Raza T-shirts. I think that's a sweet name, Raza. So you can get Raza branded T-shirts, and then you can start selling them. So it's 2 birds in 1 stone. Why do you wear every day?
There's always a good business idea there.
Yeah, it's marketing. It's marketing. Then you can write them all above the line. Right?
That's true.
Above the line, because it's all branded.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So now, what are people interested, or what should people be focused on? What should people be looking at, studying? How should people be reacting based on what you're seeing? But not only that, you have an interesting background. You started investing in 2009, I believe, right? In 2009 is when you got started, which is probably the worst time in history to have gotten started in real estate investing. But here you are today, 11 years later. Welcome back to another recession. And based on what you know, what should people be doing?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Back in 2009, people were saying that I was crazy to start investing in 2009. And I thought that was the perfect environment. Not only did I get out of college, I was able to secure and keep a job during that time, which was relatively higher paying. And because of that, I was able to save money and use that money to invest, right? So I think we had challenges at that time that we didn't have 3-4 weeks ago, right? So at that time, financing was completely locked up. So for me to get financing, I had to rely on Fannie Freddie products, keep the properties in my personal name, and also maintain a job that supported the income and supported the debt load that I was taking on. So
talk about that real quick, the Fannie and Freddie products. What does that mean for those who don't understand what you just said there?
Okay,
so what do you mean
that's a good question. So so basically, when you buy a home, that's your primary residence, you get a pre-approval, you go through the application process, and that loan is determined by what you can afford, right? Your debt to income. So that loan will get packaged by a broker and then eventually sold to Fannie or Freddie. Similar to that, that's similar to how the environment works for your investment properties as well, right? So your investment properties, you go through their application. They do take rent into consideration for some investment properties, and if if you had that investment property for long enough. But if you don't have your property seasoned long enough, they will take your debt to income ratio and the income that you make, and make sure that the income you make supports the loan that you're about to take. So at that time, I was purchasing properties in my name, and I had to have the income to support those loans to get the Fannie Freddie products. Also at the time, commercial lending was pretty much squeezed tight. So it was very hard to get commercial lending. So that was barely an option. So I was relying on the Fannie and Freddie products at that time. So there was other differences in that market, right? I think a lot of people are betting on real estate prices to go lower, and honestly, they were lower at that price at that time period. So we're yet to see if that's going to actually happen or not. But allowing yourself to be in the position to have that happen is probably key.
So a couple of things that I wanted to point out. You're saying, it's very good points. In 2008, 2009, financing went away. Financing went away because it was the financing that caused the trouble.
Yeah.
It was the lending that caused the trouble. But today, it wasn't the lending that caused the trouble. It was this virus shutting down the economy. Lenders are, though, pulling back a little bit. Lenders are pulling back or tightening their loan covenants. They're making it more difficult to buy a house. I think your credit score needs to be higher, but lenders are still lending. Now let's talk about lenders still lending. How should people position themselves to still have access to funds in this environment? Because I do know for sure, like with HOAN Loans and people still reaching out to me trying to get money, they're telling me about where their lender pulled out completely or paused. I've even had banks of my own that I'm working with who completely shut down their lending department. So yeah, tell me about what you think.
So we all know that there's the SBA, PPP out there, but that's not guaranteed right now. I would encourage everybody to apply, talk to your financial advisor, whoever that may be, to try to get involved with those loans. But I think I want to focus on acquisition lending and your I call it backside lending, which basically means after it's leased up, you go for a somewhat permanent loan, right? So acquisition lending, absolutely, that has frozen for the most part, right? There are some lenders still doing it out there, but a lot of the banks that were doing acquisition construction lending, they've taken a different approach. And then a lot of the hard money loans that were out there, who were bought by, similar to how Fannie and Freddie buy loans from the retail market, a lot of the hard money loans were bought by the Wall Street, right? So that kind of froze up the market as well. So now we have your main sources of acquisition lending that happened. The main source of acquisition lending that was happening the last few months or few years pretty much stopped, right? So for me, I think the natural thing for me to do is kind of go back to the basics. Like, well, how did I do this in 2009, right? So in 2009, I used cash, right? Initially, and I was doing one property at a year, two properties a year, and cash restricted my ability to grow, right? So that could be an option. Just go back to cash, go a lot slower, see how the market plays out, and if there's more liquidity in the market, maybe double down, triple down, whatever needs to happen at that time. The other option that I had in 2009 was getting private money, right? And private money came from friends, family, colleagues. And that for me, it took a lot of effort. That was calling up people, texting friends, former colleagues, just letting them know what I was doing.
Right.
And I think now Facebook is out there. There's more social media presence out there. I think it's a lot easier to go that route and try to seek private money without really asking for it, but just kind of reminding people that you are still in the real estate world. You still have a stable business. You're still looking to continue forward, but your acquisition lending that was there previously is a little bit more restricted. So therefore, the opportunity for people to lend to you is there. And right now is a better time than ever to kind of sell that argument, right?
Right.
How many people have lost more than 25% of their portfolio in the stock market?
Right.
So, I mean, you're giving pretty consistent interest rate, mortgage backed. I think that's an easy sell for people.
Right. Right. So one of the things that I train people on is raising private money, because private money has absolutely transformed my business. I've been able to do so much more business because of private money. And that is a topic that a lot of people don't touch upon. People don't explore it. People don't study it. And then as a result, people don't raise it. And because people don't raise the private money, they miss out on opportunities that they could be experiencing. Like, you may need some really fast money because somebody needs to sell a property quickly. Having that access to private money allows you to move fast. And that is key a lot of times to buying really good deals. Now, in terms of raising private money, people go, I don't know anybody who has private money. And the truth of the matter is, you just don't know that they have the money.
Yeah.
And they may not want you to know because you may not be a good operator. So why would they want you to know? So go ahead.
So I think it just takes effort, like anything else, right? Starting out as a real estate agent, you might say, I just don't know anybody that wants to sell a house. Well, how many people have you talked to? That should be your first question. How many Facebook lives did you do? How many Facebook posts did you do about buying and selling houses? So similar to being a real estate agent, it's the same marketing funnel to try to get out there and see what's going on or try to get out there and show everybody what you're doing in the market.
Right. You got to demonstrate, right? So this is part of the training, and I can't help but take this opportunity to train a little bit, but you have to demonstrate that you are a good operator and you're worthy of their money. Right now, here's the thing. I don't want you to be confused. A lot of people look at the private money lender as if they are the prize. I'm not saying that they're not the prize, but also I want you to remember that you as the investor, you are offering a huge opportunity and a lot of value to the person with the money, because the reason why they're lending it to you is because you're giving them a rate of return that is better than what their current options are. So this is money that's more secure than this volatile stock market. And you as an investor, because of however you build your business, you have these resources, and then you have this edge, this value proposition that allows you to get above average market returns. That is very valuable. So in some ways, you are the prize, not necessarily the lender.
Yeah, if I was still in my W-2 job and had saved up money, I would love to find somebody like me, somebody that runs a pretty solid business and could provide me rates of return for doing absolutely nothing. We all talk about real estate being a passive investment, but in actuality, it takes a lot of work for it to be passive, right? So it takes work to get there, whether you have to educate yourself, whether you have to raise money, whether you have to find deals, you have to learn construction, like all that type of stuff takes a lot of time and effort. But just handing off money to somebody that runs a secure business and you can securitize that money for a pretty high interest rate, that would be my goal as a W-2 worker, right? So
yeah, it's the least passive income stream there is. But
what's that? Real estate investing?
Real estate investing is the
yeah, we got to get rid of that word. We have to term it something else, HOAN.
Yeah, I know. it's semi-passive. I don't know.
Semi-passive, yeah.
Yeah. So now there are downsides to investing in real estate, such as knowing construction, having to rent out properties, having to deal with things like that, having to raise money and all that kind of stuff. But let's talk about some of the benefits. As a CPA and as a real estate investor, you know them just as well as I know them. There are so many benefits that people are overlooking because they don't understand it. What are some of the coolest benefits of real estate that maybe aren't so apparent to just the normal everyday 9-to-5 person? Before I started investing, I said to myself, like, why do people invest in real estate? It seems so boring. It's like not exciting at all.
Yes.
But then I started and I learned the rules and now I know why. So I wanted to hear from you why you think real estate is a good business to be in.
So there are so many ways to be in real estate and be a real estate investor. You can be a wholesaler. You can be a real estate agent. You can work with developers as a real estate agent. You could be a developer. Or you can be a real estate investor. I think the ultimate goal for me is to buy rentals and be a real estate investor. I do do other things as well. I wholesale. I'm a real estate agent. Work specifically for people that are real estate investors and developers. But the ultimate goal is to buy rental real estate and be a real estate investor. So just focusing on that aspect of real estate, because I think it's the cream of the crop, I guess. I think there's three things, and from my CPA background, I think there's three non-taxable items in real estate that allows you to build wealth and a substantial amount of wealth without getting taxed, right? So we all want to make good money, but the first thing we find out when we make good money is we pay good taxes, right? And it's a big hit. So one of the things that a lot of real estate investors or a lot of real estate coaches try not to mention or try to stay away from is appreciation on that real estate. So I started in 2009, and I found that a lot of my real estate had appreciated, especially in the Philadelphia market. With that appreciation came rental growth as well. So I was able to capitalize on some of that appreciation by refinancing, or I was able to keep the same principal payments on my debt and just have a bigger spread on my cash flow, because my rent increases were going up because of appreciation, but my mortgage payment was staying the same. Taxes went up, but not as the same growth rate as a rent. So that's one thing that real estate provides. The other aspect is equity. And this is real estate investor focus, equity tax-free. So I do the BRRRR method, which the BRRRR method allows you to purchase a property, rehab a property, rent it out, then refinance. And on that rehab, you force appreciation on that property. So you build wealth. So say you bought and rehabbed a property for $70,000, and then you went to refinance a property and it's now valued at $100,000. That's $30,000 of equity that you built. And you built that equity tax-free. Do you know how much it would cost you to buy a $100,000 property if you're working? And the answer is not $30,000. It's probably closer to 40 or 50, right? Because you have to make more money than the actual cash, and then you have to get taxed on that money. And after you get taxed on that money, you have the cash to outlay it. So not only are you not getting taxed on that money, you're actually you're building that equity pretty much free, tax-free. And then the third tax-free aspect that you have of real estate investing is depreciation. And those are the three major ones. There's other tax advantage and tax strategies you can use as well. But for a property that I'm, say, collecting $1,000 a month in rent, and my expenses, including interest, equal $700 a month for expenses, it would appear that I would be making $300 a month. So let's say $3,600 a year. And while I may make that money on my tax return, I will also have depreciation for, say, a $100,000 property, which will take away close to $300 a month. So I'm basically making the full $3,600 a year tax free. So those are the key aspects of real estate investing that I highly appreciate, and that's kind of why I went into the business as well. I didn't fully understand it at first, but as I got into buying more and more properties, I saw the true impact it was having.
Right. The one thing that, and I love all those reasons as well. That's, you know, I think all real estate investors, once they learn all of that, that's why they do the business. I'm not sure if a whole bunch of people actually love the business. I think they love the benefits of the business. Yeah.
That's funny you say love the business, right? So I got into real estate investing because I really liked construction. I liked, and it's hard to get into construction after you have a college degree and you're a CPA. So that was my way to get into construction, become a real estate investor. And what I found more and more is that I'm running a business more and more now, right? So my loves changed from being a real estate rehab, a real estate investor, into more of a love to a business investor. So right. I love business. I appreciate business. I love talking to other business owners as well, and just talking about how they run their business, what's working for them, what's not working for them. And this could be business owners that are in real estate or like run the Papa John's across the street, right? It could be anybody. I just like talking to them.
Right, right. So we got our first question, and I wanted to backtrack and discuss some of the other benefits. But the first question that we got was, how do you, and this is from Holly, Irfan, how do you think this climate is going to affect the BRRRR method? So we're gonna answer that, but I did want to touch upon one of the benefits that a lot of people don't talk about, and it's called the inefficiency of the real estate market. So what I mean by that inefficiency is that if you went out and you bought a share of Apple or a share of Tesla or a share of any stock out there, you would be paying exactly what it cost. Yeah. So if a share of Tesla today is $500, you're going to pay $500. But if I were to buy a house, here's the house that I want to buy. If I were to buy that house and that person wanted to sell that house for $100,000, my question is, what's the house actually worth?
Yeah.
And we don't know.
And it's interesting you mentioned that. I think a lot of people were scared about iBuyers and hedge fund buyers coming into Philadelphia. And they were making a presence in other areas nationally. But if you look at their housing structure, you would see that their housing structure was very similar, right? So going further in inefficiencies, there was less inefficiencies in their housing structures, right? So Houston and Dallas were some of the areas. A lot of the inventory was built in the 1970s. It looked pretty consistent on how it was built. I think in Philly, we have even more inefficiencies in pricing, right? Our housing built in the 1900s. There's a wide array of the valuation of a house in, let's say, Fishtown, right? You could buy a shell in Fishtown, and I'm talking about the greater Fishtown area. You could buy a shell in Fishtown for $50,000, or you could buy in the denser part of Fishtown like a little townhouse mansion for $600,000-$700,000, right? There's a huge array of inefficiency within a quarter mile of each other, right? So I think that all presents a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. It's a huge opportunity. You were talking about net worth earlier, and you were saying that if you bought property for $70,000 and fixed it up, bought it and fixed it up for $70,000, and now it's worth 100, you've just increased your net worth by $30,000. Well, on that same side of the token, because of this inefficiency, if I go out into the market and I find a house or any property whatsoever, and I buy it for $100,000, and it turns out somebody's willing to pay me $200,000, or if a bank appraises it and the appraisal comes in at $200,000, all of a sudden my net worth just went up $100,000 because I bought it for 100 and it's worth 200. My net worth just jumped $100,000, all because of this inefficiency in the market. My net worth grew by 100 grand simply because I knew how to identify a property and I knew how to negotiate with the seller and say the right things to cause them to say, yes, I want to sell it to HOAN.
Yeah, and in the Philadelphia market, I think there will continuously be inefficiencies there, right? So I think it's a great segue to Holly's question, right? So I don't want to make predictions, but if there are inefficiencies, there's always a way to capitalize that, right? So what may happen that was happening previously is pricing might change. Whether it goes higher or lower, everybody's predicting it's going lower, right? So try to capitalize on the lower acquisition pricing. Rehab costs. We have no idea where rehab costs is going right now, right? Some people are saying that supply is going to be limited, pricing is going to get higher. Other people are saying that there's not as much demand, it's going to get lower. But so I guess in those senses, it's very hard to predict. But one thing that I'm probably a little bit more confident about is that the lending market's going to change, and it's probably going to constrict for the time being, right? So we're talking about acquisition financing, so it's going to be a little bit harder to get acquisition financing. But we did mention your back end refinance financing as well, but we didn't really get into detail about that. I think that's going to be your true Burr difference that we could set ourselves up for, right? So that being said, like, we don't know what's going to happen, but what could happen with your refinance on the back end? And HOAN, you're probably the best person to talk about this, right? So how do you become more conservative as a lender? You could increase interest rates, but does that just cause less liquidity? And in Philadelphia market, is that really applicable? We have so many banks here that are competing against each other. You could require more loan to cost. You could require more loan to value. You could require more stringent DSCR, or you could have a higher expense ratio. So all those things are possibilities that could happen. I'm not saying all those things could happen, but I think that the best thing to do with the upcoming Burr strategies is to just be aware that refinance lending could change. So I guess the question becomes, like, how do you set yourself up to have something that's not happened? How do you set yourself up to be prepared for something that has not happened yet?
Right. So there's a couple of things. You were saying that lending, all of those things, the LTV can go down. The other thing is they can switch from loan to value to loan to cost. So if you're buying something, they want you to have more skin in the game. If they're giving you acquisition and rehab, they might go down on loan to cost, or they might do a loan to cost type loan versus a loan to value.
Absolutely.
So that switch occurs. I hear a lot of lenders are knocking off 20% right off the top for their ARVs. So whatever the ARV used to be, cut right off. So whatever you think your ARV is, multiply by 0.8. 0.8, multiply by that, that's your new ARV. And then whatever your lender says that they're going to lend to you in terms of LTV, then multiply that by the LTV, whether 70%, 65%, 75%. So that at the very least, they'll do that.
Yeah. So as an investor, how I battle that is just allow myself to have more liquidity on hand, Whether that means do less deals or raise more money, I'm not sure what the answer is right now. But I think it's important to make sure you do understand that you're not going to have the full 75, maybe even 80% you were getting loan to value previously. You're probably going to be closer to 65, or you're going to get cut appraisals. And I think that's a pretty aggressive approach. I know the Philadelphia market, right? I'm not that familiar with the national market, but in the Philadelphia market, in 2009 is basically when I got out of college and I started my professional career. And a lot of my friends were starting to buy houses at that time. So I would just constantly ask, like, oh, are you getting a deal on your house? Are you getting a deal on your house? And at the retail level, it seemed like most people were getting like a 10 to 15% discount on their house. So for banks to knock off 20%, that sounds like an overly aggressive approach, but it's their approach. They're providing the capital. We just have to deal with it, and we have to find a way to deal with it, right? So if banks are doing that, and you can get on the market only a 10 to 15% discount on the ARV of what you determine the ARV to be, maybe the option is to flip at that time.
Yeah. So most banks are not doing a 20% discount. That's more so the hard money lenders, but who knows? It may continue. Like you said, when we first started this call, we're 3 weeks in.
Yeah.
I think people who hadn't been working for the last 3 weeks may have some reserve that they've been living off of, and all is good. Come May, come June, at some point, people are going to be hurt bad.
Yeah.
And things are going to change. There's not going to be many buyers, right? The credit market crunches. If the credit market tightens so much that it reduces our buyer pool by 50%, then prices are going to have to come down. It's not that they don't want to buy, they just can't.
Yeah.
It happens.
And yeah, it's just market changes, right? We just have to evaluate our market changes and adapt to the market changes. I think as an entrepreneur, changing to what's given to you is probably the number one priority, right? We've probably changed our business more in the last year than most people have changed in their regular jobs, right? We just have to constantly adapt, and I think this is going to be a true test, right? And people are going to take some losses. People are going to have liquidity concerns. They're going to have cash flow concerns. The next few months, as you mentioned, we don't know what's going to happen in the next few months. We've only been in this for a few weeks, so right. As a landlord, I'm trying to prepare appropriately, right? So to make sure that we are receiving collections.
What are you doing to prepare as a landlord? What are those things that you're doing to prepare as a landlord?
So I think there's a lot of laws out there related to eviction and freezing eviction and what you're allowed to do. So first and foremost is make sure you're compliant with all the laws and regulations out there. I think there's also opportunities that if you do have cash flow trouble, you evaluate your opportunities to delay and defer your loan payments. But I also want to kind of make mention that might not be the best option if you are able to make your payments. And HOAN, I'm sure you guys have your own perspective about it at the bank, but I've talked to many lenders who said that if you're looking to pause your payments, just be careful on your next refinance. And I'm constantly refinancing, so I think if I'm able to make those payments, which I believe I have a strong enough business to be able to make those payments, then I'm going to make those payments, right? So maybe you could add to that feedback. What is your bank's position on that?
So my bank specifically, our position is that we're going to defer the payments to the end, or not defer the payments at the end at all, and just take what you owed for those 3 months or so and wrap that into the principal and re-amortize the loan so that your monthly payments are going to be higher, but spread out over the duration of the mortgage. Now, if all banks did that, I think that would be a really great thing. But what I'm hearing is that some banks, what they're going to be doing is they're going to defer your loan 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And on that 4th or 7th month, it all comes due. And that's not really doing anybody a favor, because the reason you needed to defer it in the first place is because you couldn't afford it. And so if it's all due at that last month, then all you're doing is you're putting people in a very bad position. And so those details are what you need to find out and you need to get in writing. So you take proper steps. Now, here's the other thing. As you said, some lenders are going to keep notes of who asked for a forbearance or a deferment during this time, so that when you go to ask for your refi, they may say yes or no. Because if you were in a liquidity crunch when they needed their money, then they're thinking like, I'm not going to lend you money, because if something like this happens again, you're just going to raise the white flag and give up. It's like, no, we need you to fight to pay us.
Has your bank taken that approach too? Are they going to take notes on who's asking for forbearance, or are you generally allowing them?
There's in the internal memos that was sent around, it was saying that yes.
So this is secrets. These are secrets.
Yeah, great secrets on the inside. But yeah, that's actually where I'm getting it from. It's that like they're not necessarily going to be refinancing people in the future if they ask for a forbearance or anything like that, even with a different bank. So it's interesting. We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out, because at some point banks are going to need to give loans, because that's how they make their money. So it depends on which banks are going to be more aggressive and which ones are going to be more conservative. The ones that are conservative are like, hey, you asked for forbearance in the past, and we're not going to mess with you this time around. And other banks will say yes. So that's where you have to. And as a loan broker, this is where my value comes in. It's where I know the appetite of all the different lenders, and I know which ones are aggressive, which ones are conservative, which ones look at a property, a certain LTV, or there's a certain seasoning requirement. And then knowing all of that in my head, knowing all of that, because banks are constantly changing, so I have to constantly stay on the phone with them. Knowing all of their criterias, and then knowing your particular situation. Your situation will then tell me which bank I need to reach out to.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. So I guess going back to what I'm doing differently as a landlord. Also, so banks is one of the things, and making sure that you can pay if you can pay, right? The other thing is trying to make sure that collections come in, right? Everybody's going through a tough time, and we are trying to be sensitive to the tough times that they are facing, but we need most of that money to make necessary repairs to the housing and to provide enough administrative staff to make sure that that repairs are being done, and we're providing the administrative staff necessary to keep the housing going. So what we're doing is encouraging people to review where they can get funds, such as unemployment and any type of assistance that they may need. So again, it's a tough time for the whole country right now, and just trying to figure it out and all working together.
I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something that I haven't said in any other Facebook Lives or calls or anything that I've done, right? If you were at the casino, I don't know if you gamble or not, but let's say if you were at
blackjack.
What's that?
I've played blackjack and craps. I like both those games.
Perfect example. Okay, so Irfan, if you were at the blackjack table and you lost $20,000, okay, it's a big hit, right? If you lost $20,000, do you need to make $20,000 back at the blackjack table?
First of all, I never would bet $20,000. Let's say $200.
All right, fine, $200.
So
you need to be made whole at the blackjack table.
No, that's money I set aside to have fun with, right?
Don't forget your casino philosophy. I'm just saying, if you played blackjack and you lost $200, do you need to be made whole at the blackjack table? If you lost $200 at blackjack, do you need to make $200 there, or are you able to make $200 somewhere else and still be made whole?
Yeah, I would make it somewhere else. I would focus on making it somewhere else. Is that the answer you're looking for, or you're telling me to double down?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Every interview that I've watched and I've hosted so far, they've always said that let's reach out to the tenants. Let's see what we can do. Let's show them all of their options so you can get money from your tenants. Okay, fair enough. And that makes sense. Get your money from your tenants. What I would like to do is this little nugget is that you guys get to make money in other ways. This is the opportunity to try some other business out. Some kind of virtual business where you could provide a service and get paid for it during this time. So if you need to make a mortgage payment, and your tenant's not paying you and you can't get blood from a stone, then maybe stop squeezing the stone and use the efforts to make money somewhere else. How else could you make money? So like Irfan, how could you make money outside of real estate? You can't collect rent, you can't flip properties, and you can't do real estate agent stuff. Like you can't do commissions, right? So how else could you make money? Just be wild in your thoughts. How would you be able to make money?
Oh, I used to be a baker when I was a teenager.
Okay.
So I could bake Italian bread, I guess.
Okay, so that's one. You could bake Italian bread. What could you do virtually for people?
Virtually, I could teach them how to bake Italian bread.
There you go. You can be their coach, right? You can offer an online service of how to teach or bake Italian bread.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
With that in mind, what could people do today if they have this rent, or I'm sorry, mortgage payment that's due and they're not collecting their rent? Is it fair to say that maybe people need to start thinking outside of what's directly in front of them and then stepping away from the blackjack table and then trying to become whole other ways? I lost $100 at blackjack. I'm going to make $300 back at craps.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I think you're making a good point, right? We're not trying to harass any tenants that can't pay, right? We're just communicating to them appropriately, right? So we're not trying to squeeze blood from a stone. So in those aspects, yeah, it probably makes more sense to walk away and find another avenue to get funds to keep your business going. I'm more in the focus of trying to figure it out in real estate, right? So I have a few different ways to make money in real estate. One of them is working for investors and developers, identifying for them properties to purchase and helping them on the sales side. Right now, we're actually helping people lease as well. And this is from my immediate friend community in the real estate group, because we already have our process and procedures to happen electronically. So we're utilizing that as an additional fund source. We should be able to collect a few $1,000s from that. And then I think the other aspect is reviewing your expenses, right? So I don't want to cut growth expenses right now, and I don't want to do it for some time, but that could always be an option, right? So I think a lot of the money we do spend is to help us grow as a business, in labor, in marketing, in systems, and overall as a business, we are spending a lot of money to help us grow into that next level. So that could also be an option.
Hold on. This is a very important part. What are you spending money on specifically?
So administrative staff is probably a large overhead expense. We also have a lot of overhead interest that we are spending money on currently. And then we do spend a lot of money on education as well. So I'm involved with a couple masterminds, one of which I do travel for as well. So I don't want to eliminate those costs, right? I think the masterminds are important. The trainings are important. And if I eliminate those costs, I might not find the next move, right? We're sharing the next move in these groups. And I think that would be probably the wrong move. But if it's necessary to save that cash, I think it's a necessary cut.
So it's perfect. What you're saying is perfect. When you spend money, it doesn't just go into the air. It doesn't evaporate, right?
Absolutely not.
When you spend money, just like you said, I'm not cutting any of my marketing dollars. I'm not cutting any of my expansion dollars. I'm going to continue to spend this money on building my business, right? When you pay that money, that's why I was like, okay, tell me who you pay, right? So you're like, I pay administrative staff, I pay for these masterminds, I pay for this stuff, right? It doesn't go into the air. There's a person on the other side who's receiving that money.
Absolutely.
And so that person receiving the money may look at this environment and be like, well, I'm still getting paid, right? So your mastermind host, they're still getting paid. Your administrators, they're still getting paid. So what if we as real estate professionals, or any professional in that matter, we create a company that creates more income? So what you had said earlier, you said, I'm still doing this, I'm still doing that, and I made a couple $1,000s from that. People listening to that, like we take for granted the position that we're in, but they're like, he made a couple $1,000s doing what? Like a lot of money. It's a lot of people. So for all of you guys listening, what I'm saying to you guys is you don't necessarily have to make your money back at the blackjack table. Figure out what you're good at and create a business or a service around that you can create additional income so that during this unique time, you're not struggling, you're not suffering, right? You have to add value to people. See what Irfan said. He wasn't even prompted to say this. He said that he does not plan on cutting out his mastermind cost because for him, he feels like if he cuts it out, he may miss out on the next big move, which may make him millions of dollars, right? So whatever he pays in that mastermind cost, a couple $1,000, is well worth it for the couple $1 million that he could make from his next move.
Yeah.
So
it's all including travel and hotel stay. It's pretty expensive. I mean, it's not cheap. So
right.
Maybe I'll get a discount next air trip that I take though. It seems like the airline flight tickets are going down very low right now.
Right. Well, they asked, come on, you're a CPA, open up your own practice.
Yeah, that's something that I'm definitely not going to do.
I hear you.
I've taken a few consulting jobs here and there. I just think I'm better suited to the real estate environment, and I enjoy it more. Right. So I think that's one of the things that I'm looking to do right now. Is just focus on what I enjoy, right? I kind of jokingly said something about baking breads and being a baker. I love that job, right? That was probably one of my favorite jobs. So if I was to go back and do something, it'd probably be somewhere in that type of environment where I'm packaging up bread, I guess. But yeah, so
do it right, and it could be huge.
Yeah, so I guess to continue on that, like we're all stuck at home, I guess, but stucking at home might not be the worst thing ever. Just try to find a way to enjoy it. I think there's a lot of things that you can do to find a way. I know we mentioned this earlier, but like we're getting beautiful weather out here in the Philadelphia area, right? It's 67 degrees out. Like you can't beat that weather. So getting out, I would strongly encourage that right now. Just getting out there and just seeing the sun. Just remember to stay 6 feet away from people, though, and just enjoy yourself. I think that's very important.
So with these calls, the reason I host a lot of these Facebook lives and YouTube lives is because I want people to get a different perspective of what's going on. The news is often the only place where people get any kind of information, and it's all doom and gloom on the news. But
Yeah, absolutely.
let's hear from people like you who see opportunities. They see this as a transitional time. This is where wealth gets transferred, right? Because prices may go down, and this is that buying opportunity. This is where wealth gets transferred, and opportunities will be abundant for the right people. And when I mean the right people, it's the people who are prepared to take advantage of the opportunities. So, what would you say that people should focus on for the next month or two to prepare for all of the opportunities that are coming around? And what are those opportunities that you see?
Yeah, so I think if you're already in the business, you're going to take some type of losses, right? Whether it be rent collection or a flip loss or holding costs, whatever it may be, you're going to take some type of losses. And I think when I was younger, I used to play rec school basketball and rec sports. I played pretty much to middle school. And every time we took a loss, the coach would say, we got to practice fundamentals, right? So fundamentals, meaning, for example, in basketball, when we took a major loss, we'd go to practice the next day and practice dribbling, practice our layups, practice defense, practice our left-handed layups, right? Like all the fundamentals. That was very important. We didn't go out and start shooting 3-point shots and half-court shots. That wasn't going to win us the games, right? It was going to be back to fundamentals. And I think that's very similar in real estate investing. I think we've gotten lucky in the past few years where we were able to play the game pretty much just shooting threes. But I think and that was buying deals that may not have worked and appreciation bailed us out, or buying deals that were very tight, or shouldn't have been financed, but they were financed because liquidity was so available. So I think we got to all reevaluate and go back to our fundamentals, right? And find what our weaknesses are. Like in basketball, for me, it was the left-handed layup. I couldn't make a left-handed layup for anything, right? So
Can you?
No, I can't even make a right-handed layup now. So finding that, right? So I mean, just looking at your business and finding what your weakness is, try to put some focus on that, and just going back to the fundamentals. And the fundamentals are pretty easy if you try to simplify the business in real estate investing, right? What are you doing? You're acquiring, your construction, and you're disposing, right? So acquisition, what are the ways we can acquire? We can acquire through the secondhand market, the off market. We can acquire through real estate agents. We can acquire through our network. All those things require some type of networking. So I think the move there is just to get on the phone and just remind people what you do, right? You don't even have to talk to them about business. Just say, hey, I was thinking of you, right? Like what's the issue in saying that, right? Remember that deal we did back 2 years ago? Oh, I was just thinking about that deal. It actually went really well. I was just seeing how you're doing, right? Construction. Fortunately, construction in Philly is at a pause right now. But what can we do in construction right now that will benefit us, right? Maybe think back to what you were struggling with, right? So organization is one of the big things in construction that we all tend to struggle with. Organize your sub list. Make sure that next time you need a framer, 10 people you need to call. Network with people, ask people who they've used. Try to ask them what if we could share sub lists or whatnot. Whatever you think, or whatever you thought you would do when you had time, you have time now, right? You're not physically building houses, so let's see where that comes of that. So I think those are few big ones on the acquisition and construction side. I think we hit financing a lot during this whole segment, both because that's what I like to do, and like what I like to focus on, my business is run on financing, and you're the owner of HOAN ZONE, so you're probably one of the smarter guys I know as a banker. So I really like to shoot some feedback back and forth with you. And then lastly, I think one of the other things that we could focus on is administrative. I think if you're not able to, or you were not able to quickly deliver your LLC documents to purchase a home to the title company, it took you a few days for turnaround time because you had to scramble to get all those two things together. I think you should focus on a way to identify how you could set that all in one place on electronically, and allow yourself to be able to deliver that quicker going forward. That's just a small example, but administrative, you could clean up your administrative process really nicely at this point.
I love it. So what I heard is there are a couple of foundational pieces to real estate investing. You called it acquisition, construction, and disposal, right? I call it find, fund, fix, finish, right? Find, fund, fix, finish, right?
Oh,
so
awesome.
Those are the four. And what you're saying is to look at every single one of those squares and fill out a way to be more efficient and effective at every single one. So in terms of finding properties, where are your top 3 lead sources? And how do you interact with those 3? Keep them current. How do you respond to them? How do you make sure that you don't lose a lead in the shuffle? So get more efficient at your finding sources. Next step, funding, right? Funding. What are your top 3 funding sources? It might be private money, it might be banks, it might be hard money. Let's just say those are the 3. So who are your private money lenders, and have you started reaching out to them? Do they know what you do? Or do you even have people that you want to talk to? Which banks are going to, which banks are you going to use for either your refinance or your construction or any kind of loan that you might need? Also, lines of credit and credit cards, right? Those are very important tools for real estate investors. Unsecured lines of credit and credit card, those are super quick money, access to quick money that you can use for anything. No underwriting, no approval. You already got the approval when you got the line of credit. So who are your bankers? And then also finally, who are your hard money people, right? And if you don't have these people, then which brokers, HOAN's Loans, which brokers might you use to connect you to the sources that you need, right? And then also what do you need to provide so that the lenders want to lend to you? What documentation do you need? So like Irfan was saying, have it structured where you have it in a file, a digital file of sorts, and you can send them a Google Drive link that links to the folder so that they have everything. Like, are you fast? Are you
that's one thing that I never understood, why people send things piecemeal. And I think you probably get that a lot.
Oh yeah.
And the lending, you should send one link. You know how easy your life will be if you send one link and you just follow up after 2 weeks and the banker asks you for nothing additional. It makes your life a lot easier. So I think that should be the focus, is finding a way to get your bank package together. So you're only sending one link. You're sending similar link every time. You have your templated links, and then you could focus on what truly matters when it matters. Right now we're all a little bit slow, so I think that's the perfect time. I saw a question about construction costs from Robin come up, and I do want to just touch on that. So what I do know is construction costs will change, right? So I a lot of people don't know about this about me, but I used to work at Home Depot as well. During my Home Depot time, was some type of hurricane. I can't remember exactly the name of the hurricane that was going about, but it had a temporary shortage in supply. And half-inch plywood at that time was selling like $11, $12 a sheet, and went up to $18, $19 a sheet of half-inch plywood, right? So I think similar to that, we have a lot of drastic changes, right? Similar to the hurricane, we have a lot of drastic changes. So I think there's going to be immediate drastic changes to your pricing overall. I don't know what's going to happen, and I can't really make a prediction. I'm not really that in tune with being an economist to be able to make that prediction. But I just do know that it will change. But I think things change based on overall market condition, right? So if we do have the market in 2009 where it was a slow market, demand reduces, and we may have construction costs reduce as well. But that's yet to be seen, right? We're in pretty drastic changes right now.
Yeah. Don't worry about not being an economist. Most of the economists get everything wrong anyway. So
yeah, they're like weather people too.
You're all good.
Those are the best jobs to have. Could you imagine just being able to be wrong all the time?
All the time. And it's like, oh, well, we didn't see that one thing happen, so this is why our answer was completely wrong, and this report is completely trash.
Yeah.
So going back to what you were saying, having everything in one folder, also having the ability to just react faster and more efficiently. People scramble all the time. So as a banker, when I'm asking for your documents, and I'm like, hey guys, so for anybody who wants to know, in order to get loans, you're going to need to send me your EIN, your operating agreement, your articles of incorporation, your personal financial statement. Included in your personal financial statement, it's going to be your portfolio of properties with all of the debt and the rent rolls and everything else in there, so I can calculate your global debt service coverage ratio. So you're going to have to have that in there. Possibly your current lease, if applicable, bank statements, if applicable, and what else? Oh, like your driver's license, things like that. And
so that's across the board. Every bank asks for that. Pretty much every hard money lender asks. So why do you not have that set up and ready to go every time? There's like the only thing that should change is your specific pro forma to the property, right?
Yeah. The pro forma to the property changes because that's unique to the one that you're refinancing, and the portfolio, the schedule of real estate, as it's called, that should also get updated because now you got a new loan, you bought a new property, so that's constantly evolving as well. But things like your tax returns, those can be in there. Those don't change usually. They're in there. So having all of that, and a lot of times people scramble. And there's a saying that I like to say often: it's stay ready, so you don't got to get ready. Right? Ready, so you don't got to get ready. And what that means is just be ready for things like this, so that you're not getting ready. You're already ready.
Yeah, that's awesome. You had some pretty clever sayings throughout this podcast. We really need you to come up with a real estate passive investor, right? Like it's not passive. Like you need a better word for that. I don't know what it is right now, but I think you can create it. If there's anybody out there, you can definitely create it.
Yeah, I'll think about that. I'll think about that because it's important. And you know how BRRRR is a word that we all use now universally, and we all understand. You buy, you renovate, you rent, you refi, you repeat. Like we all know that now. So we need to call rental real estate not necessarily passive investing, because maybe notes is passive. And my mentor in the note space, he calls it extreme passive investing.
Oh, right? Really?
Versus passive investing for rentals. So this is extreme passive. Right. So that's the difference.
Yeah. So that's something that I'm not too in tune with. I know I've followed one of the bigger ones in the Philadelphia area that does notes, and I've read up a little bit about it, but it does seem like it works. It generally works. So it's something to look into if you truly want that passive, and it's something that we provide our lenders, right? Like they're truly passive. So
that's passive.
Yeah, so I guess I'm providing that, but I'm not receiving it. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah. I'll figure out a name for it all, but I love that this is a good time to recalibrate your business so that you are more efficient. This is the perfect time. This is what we call working on your business, not in your business, right? This is that working on your business, not in your business. Most of the time, we are too busy working in our business that we never work on our business. And that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And what else can you do? I mean, watch Tiger King on Netflix. Like that's only a few episodes. I've watched the whole thing, so I'm not going to deny it.
Do it. You look like a Tiger King.
I was a fan. I think Carol's a bad person too. Carol Baskin.
I've heard. A lot of people thought she was the partner to like Baskin Robbins, the ice cream company. They thought that Carol Baskin was the.
I don't want to associate her with ice cream. Ice cream's a good thing. Carol Baskin's a terrible person.
Yeah. So no, this is definitely the time to work on your business, not in your business. And too many people say, "Oh, I'm too busy. I'm too busy." Well, that's a sign that you don't have things set up the right way. So maybe you can figure out how to create a business where you don't have to say that all of the time, where you're so busy.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's ways to make things more efficient. It's definitely out there. And I think right now, a lot of the market is being forced into those ways, right? So while we try to be proactive with it and being less physically present, I think now agent business is trying to do that, right? Where they're not requiring agents to go into the office to settle a property. The mortgage business is now opening themselves up to mobile notaries or virtual notaries, right? All these things are happening pretty drastically in the last few weeks. And I think it's the perfect time to figure out a way to make it happen in your business as well. Try to be more efficient.
Right. So, all right. Well, let's see. We got a question. How have y'all adapted y'all's business plan in light of coronavirus? So how have you adapted your business plan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my business plan is constantly adapting, right? We're finding out new information. We extended quarantine till pretty much the end of this month. We don't know when construction's opening up again in Philadelphia. So I'm basically trying to keep my staff members on board, and I'm trying to evaluate everything in the business that I could potentially improve upon. There's really, I think the only thing I can do is improve upon my business, right? It's very hard for me to say, oh, I really think this is going to happen. I don't really want to make that too many predictions. And if I think something's going to happen and changing my business related to that, that might be the wrong play with so much information changing.
Right. What I would like to point out is that within this incredible shift of the world and how we were all forced to do things a certain way, I believe that within all of the chaos, there's a lot of gifts within the chaos. One of those gifts that I'm seeing is that people were forced into understanding and learning how to use things like Zoom and Facebook Live, and YouTube better, and all of those different outlets, right? So everybody was forced to use those things. Think back, I want to say let's say 2002 or something like that. I don't know if we can even remember what happened then, but let's say back in 2002, online ordering maybe wasn't as prevalent. People were afraid of putting their credit card on the computer and what's going to happen and all that. Now, buying online, we don't think twice. It's like order it on Amazon immediately. Right? Order it wherever, whatever website. We don't care now. We don't even think about it. It's no different. Ordering online versus going to the store. It's almost no different now. And that happened through this adoption period. People started to get comfortable with it because they started to use it. They started to see their friends doing it, right? So there was this social acceptance because people were forced into this online platform. Their kids are forced to go to school. Work is being conducted this way. Entertainment's being conducted this way. Interviews are conducted this way. Everything's being done this way. It's opening up the doors for me to provide more value to more people because I can do more trainings online and more people receive it. And because they're already inundated with it, because they're already used to it, because they're already forced to consume it, now it's not a big deal. Ask somebody 5 years ago, hey, get on a Zoom with me and all that kind of stuff. They're like, what Zoom? What? I gotta download what? Like all of that, all gone. All of the hurdles gone. So now I can deliver more products because of this gift that I've been given. This gift of everybody being forced to use these platforms. I get to share the gift that I was born with, which is being able to communicate with people, being able to educate people in a way that they understand complicated ideas that allows them to improve financially. Financial literacy goes up, their wealth goes up, all of that. So I get to give my gift of being able to communicate that way to more people because now more people are open to the idea of learning this way.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens in the future. Where if we can continue to use these efficiencies, be more comfortable with these efficiencies that we're forced to create, right? So, for example, in the banking world, signing the bank loan packages physically at the settlement table, well, that takes at least 30 minutes. It's like 100 pages you have to sign with notary, right? So if we're doing it now without physical presence, and we're doing it through DocuSign or we're just notarizing less documents, we're creating a more efficient environment. So I'm looking forward to. I know that's a simple thing, but I'm looking forward to how we're going to create more efficiencies going forward as a business, right? We can all do it internally, but we have a lot of business factors out there and the industry environments that are causing us to keep to our old ways. And I think this drastic change is going to be pretty positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And those efficiencies are good. Those are good efficiencies, I like to call them. That they don't take away anything from our life. So some people say like, oh, the internet, it takes away from people connecting physically and all of that kind of stuff. Well, we don't necessarily need to go to physical closing. Like that's necessary. So fine, like we get away with that. Like, okay, nobody's feelings are hurt. It's just a business transaction at that point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, meetup.com was founded off of that premise where everybody was spending all their time online. And they said, how can we use this online platform to get people to still meet physically? So there was an opportunity baked out of this weird thing that was happening in society where people were just all connecting socially.
I wonder how much volume that site is getting right now.
Oh man. Yeah, it's a weird thing now, right?
Yeah.
I wonder how they're pivoting, if at all. Maybe they're like virtual meetups.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good point.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we talked about a whole bunch of things. Is there anything else that you wanted to drop on the people who are still on here? We have a lot of viewers. This live got some of the highest viewing content or counts so far.
That's awesome because we just set it up today, right? I think I texted you this morning saying I'm ready. Let's go.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, and then I made a flyer real fast, and
yeah, that was impressive. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of knowledge here. I'm going to look back at it myself and see what you had to say. I think you have definitely a lot of good points as a lender, as an investor, as an educator too. So. But overall, I think the major points we hit were to work on the business and then identify what you can identify, right? What's happening now is constantly changing, and on that, I think if there's nothing you can continuously work on is just have fun. I mean, we're all stuck in our homes, but we don't have to be stuck. We can go outside, right? So that's probably what I'd like to close it off on.
The saying is not that you're stuck at home, you're safe at home. And what you do with your time is interesting. Let's see. Oh, we got another question. Slipped right in there. HOAN, thoughts on leverage when attempting to refinance at this time and negotiating skip payments in the beginning or wrap payments at the end of the new loan? If you can pay it, pay it. Try not to skip because that may hurt you in the long run. Some banks are allowing you to wrap it into the loan and some are not, and they're just going to hit you over the head in 3 to 6 or 7 months or whenever that period, that forgiveness period is over. So really, really dive in and figure out which lender is doing what. Again, if you have committed to getting this money and there is this document that said, I solemnly promise to pay back my loan on time, every time until the end, then try to live up to your commitments. You know, the bank is a business. And I know like my bank is a super small bank. I know individuals who have more money than my bank because my bank has one branch. So them getting 30% deferment request is a huge cash flow drain on the bank. Banks are businesses, and so if you get a refi, try not to skip any payments. Right? Try not to skip any payments. And then, have you noticed an increase or decrease in marketing on Facebook and IG? Yeah, I've absolutely seen a huge increase in the marketing on Facebook and Instagram for all kinds of interesting things. So a lot of people are taking this concept of doubling down on their marketing and pushing, like being greedy when everybody's fearful. A lot of people pull out, and so other people will push twice as hard or 3 times as hard. So I'm seeing ads that are that I've never seen before, and I see them like 6 times a day now. So that. Let's see. Thinking that we may leverage when writing the loan versus when you're already in it. What, Irfan, how do you interpret this? Do you see the?
When you're already in it. I'm not understanding. It was probably specific to what you were saying at that time, and the timing's off.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't, Michael. I have no idea what you're writing. there are words on the screen, but I don't know what those words mean. Sorry. So yeah, become more efficient at your business. Work on your business, not in your business. Consider different ways to diversify your business. Think of ways that you can offer more value to people, offer more value to your existing clients, right? They say that there's 3 ways to really make money in business. It's either sell more, like get more client, like either get more clients, sell more to the same clients, or increase the pricing of whatever it is that you sell. So there's some iteration of those 3, mix it all up and figure out what you're good at in the world and take this as an opportunity to try it. Just try it. You got all the time in the world. And I'm not saying necessarily to spend a whole bunch of money in building your business. Create what we call the minimum viable product, MVP, minimum viable product. What is the most stripped down, streamlined product or service that you can offer to people and you can actually charge for? And then when you charge your early clients, get feedback and then make your product better and better and better. And before you know it, you could have a full-blown business when we come out of this mess. Boom. All right. Well, anything else? That's all I got. I'm
done as well. Thanks a lot for your time, HOAN.
Hey, thank you. Hour and a half later. All right, y'all. Peace.